So welcome to everybody to this webinar of the Cost Action Food Waste Stop. We know that everybody wants to publish and everybody wants to publish at the best. And so this is very important to make active the action and try to improve the results and the communication. But before to introduce our excellent speaker, I leave the floor to Kata Miali, that is the leader of VG6, that is dealing with communication and dissemination. Kata, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm really happy that we could organize the first webinar of the VG6, and I would like to thank you to Sona, Gianfranco, and Valeriana to organize it and help this webinar. And I hope that everybody will gain useful knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Tata. Thank you for the work that you are doing, leading the VP6 of Cost Action. And now it is our big pleasure to have Sonal Shukla, that is a very important person about indexing of Springer-Nature. So it is our privilege, and also thanks Valeriana for the communication that we had. So now we want to improve our way to placing of our information and our paper. Feel free to tell us how we can do, and to all the people that are attending, feel free to take question in the chat, and later we will have the discussion. So now the floor is yours.
Thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity. I'm Sonal Shukla, Head of Indexing at Springer-Nature. I'm based in New York, and the focus of today's presentation is talking, of course, about indexing, but also some of the areas that makes indexing so important and valuable. So let's get started. This is an agenda and outline. I'll try to wrap it up within 55 minutes so we have enough time for Q&A. Please feel free to ask the questions in the chat box. So after the session, the presentation is over, then we can handle each question one by one. So first, let's talk about, what is indexing and what is the value of indexing. So the misconception about indexing is that indexing is somebody sitting there and extracting the abstract of the articles and assigning the keywords. Yes, that used to be indexing until 19th century, but everything has recently changed. And now indexing is mainly the databases that are offered to the researchers, subscribers, readers all over the world. So basically, indexing is a platform that provides relevant information. So any unorganized data getting organized so that it is easily retrievable is in a systematic order is indexing all about. So the whole focus is to get quick and speedy retrieval, right? As a researcher, when you are trying to do your research and get so much information, you need those results to be easily retrievable and relevant to save your time. And that's what all these indexing services or databases provide. So they provide, relevant order of the information, usually ranked either by the recency of the content or by the relevancy. So what is the value of it, right? Why are indexing services so valuable for researchers, for institutions, for scholarly publishing ecosystem? So these, first of all, these indexing services, some of them are multidisciplinary, such as Web of Science and Scopus. Some are very subject-specific indexing services. They provide the seal of quality and they provide the benchmark for best publishing practices. So just the selection process for these databases, some of them are the key databases, it is not easy that all content automatically goes into those indexing services. There is a curation that is taking place, and that curation adds the quality and the seal of approval. Many of these indexing services in the recent time, they are more like regulatory agencies. So they want to make sure that whatever they are offering through their platform is very authoritative and reliable. Also, they provide the discoverability to the wide-ranging audience. And the curation, as I indicated, is done by the subject matter expert. So some of the databases such as Web of Science and Scopus and Medline and PubMed Central, there is a systematic evaluation process before the content gets selected for those databases. And that curation is done by the matter expert, which adds value to it. Also, it provides access to the right content at the right time. So many of the healthcare professional has this misconception that each and every content that is published in biomed area automatically is available through PubMed. That is not the case. PubMed, which has two important databases, Medline and PubMed Central, these are very difficult indexing services to get into. Not all journals automatically get selected for these indexing services. So these are the reasons why these indexing services are so critical. And many of them are for-profit companies such as Web of Science and Scopus. They have obligations to their subscribers and users, and therefore they want to make sure that whatever content they are selecting is reliable and it is not compromised content. So they keep on, quality checking the content of already indexed title also, so that they can maintain the quality. So this is the value of the indexing services. So of course, as a researcher, as authors, you have to depend. It is a reliable source of information, one platform that you can get, which provides comprehensive overview of the research being done in particular subject area. There are many subject-specific indexing services also. However, for today's session, the focus is going to be well-known indexing services such as Web of Science, Scopus, Medline, and PubMed Central. There are examples of subject-specific indexing service such as Astrophysics Data System or Agricola or travel database. So for each subject area, there is a specialized indexing service. However, today we are going to be focusing mainly on the multidisciplinary indexing services and also PubMed. PubMed is subject specific because they focus on biomed and healthcare related areas. So the value of indexing from the perspective of author and journals, right? So there are different paths, but for all different stakeholders in the scholarly publishing ecosystem, indexing is very critical. We already discussed in the previous slide what are the reasons for the value, but they have different paths. Authors also have a different way, but the goal is the same, right? And the goal is the visibility of the content. So for authors, the amount of time that they have invested in publishing an article, that content needs to be discovered and findable so that other peers can also refer to that research. Other readers, even general readers, can find that content. So the discoverability is number one focus for everyone. And these indexing services provide that discoverability to comprehensive information on one platform. If that content is discovered, naturally it is going to be read more, and that is going to increase the research impact of the article. So these indexing services add value by increasing the research impact. It also provides recognition to authors because it is very likely that without these types of indexing services, there is not going to be a platform which provides comprehensive information. Right? So these indexing services, because they offer this comprehensiveness, it adds recognition to the authors. It is also a requirement of many institutions to have the authors publish in index journals, which is as I said, so many of the national funding agencies or universities or institutions want the author their article to be either indexed in Scopus or Web of Science or Medline or PubMed Central. So it is the requirement imposed by these funding agencies. These indexing services is a way to measure the output for evaluation. How would you evaluate the performance of a researcher? Through these indexing services, it's one of the ways. It's not the only way. However, it is one of the ways to measure the output. It is one of the way to measure the performance of the researchers. It also helps in creating network, right? So for authors, for academic and professional advancement, these indexing services provide a platform to find out other authors in their area of research, and then it helps the network. Also, it saves time for further research by facilitating cross-referencing. So these are all the points valuable from author's perspective. From journals' perspective or publishers' perspective, the indexing services provide seal of quality. They offer the best publishing practices. It increases the prestige of a journal or publisher because, as I indicated, just getting accepted in Web of Science or Medline offers that seal of quality. So it increases the visibility and discoverability, and it also adds value to that journal. Then further, all the metrics that we are not going to be covering all metrics, but some of the important metrics further provide prestige to the journals. So Springer Nature had done a author survey a couple of years back to identify what are the most important factors from author's perspective, author's hierarchy of needs in submitting a manuscript. And five most important reasons or factors that the author consider in submitting a manuscript to a journal. Out of those five, two are indexing related. One is the comprehensive indexing of a journal because it offers the maximum discoverability. And the second one is impact factor. Impact factor is one of the journal metrics, and we will discuss about impact factor. There are other journal level and author level metrics also, but these are two most important indexing related factors that author consider before submitting a manuscript to a journal. Now we are going to be talking about the indexing services. Again, we are not going to be talking about all indexing services. We are just going to be talking about selective. Springer Nature has arrangement or partnership with over 200 different indexing services, discovery services, ranking services, digital archives. So we are not going to be talking about each one of them. Here, the focus is going to be limited to the most important key indexing services, such as Web of Science and Scopus. So first, let's talk about them. The scope of each one. You, of course, must have heard about Web of Science. That is part of ISI or Clarivate. That is the name of the parent company. Web of Science Core Collection is a platform offered to any subscriber who subscribes to that product. And within Web of Science core collection, they have 5 products, or rather more than 5 products, but mainly it is Science Citation Index Expanded, Social Science Citation Index, Arts and Humanities Citation Index, Emerging Sources Citation Index, Book Citation Index, Conference Proceeding Citation Index. These are all the separate products, separate databases that are offered on the same common platform of Web of Science core collection. So each one of them may have separate scope. However, the content selected for any one of them is discovered through Web of Science platform. Although the platform is one, but the products are separate, and it is possible that the requirement of each product is going to be separate. So for Conference Proceeding Citation Index, Clarivate has separate requirement that those conference proceedings must meet before it gets selected for that product. So there are thousands of peer-reviewed journals, thousands of conference proceedings and book series that could be discovered through Web of Science, one platform. It has millions of records of funding data. It also offers the links to open access record. So Web of Science doesn't offer anything full text directly on their platform. It provides a link to the publisher's website, so the researchers and readers can then go to the publisher's website to access the full text of the article. Web of Science is the database or the platform that provides impact factor to the journals selected in SCIE, SSCI, AHCI, and ESCI. These are the journal focus databases. What you see on the left-hand side, on the top of the slide, those are the journal focus databases. If a journal is selected in any one of those databases, that journal, if it has 3 years worth of data, Clarivate will give impact factor. The evaluation and the decisions for those journals are made by an internal editorial team. The process is extremely rigorous. For the journals to get accepted in Web of Science, it is becoming more and more difficult. And once the journal gets accepted, staying indexed is also a very critical component, because Clarivate is constantly evaluating journals to make sure that they are meeting their requirements, and they have started to delist a journal or place the journal on hold if those journals have issues, ethics issues, or if they are not meeting the core requirements. Web of Science is, because of the impact factor, which is a journal level metric, is still considered a gold standard, and it is a highly curated database. Let's quickly talk about Scopus. Scopus, similar to Web of Science, is a multidisciplinary database. It is one platform. All different types, be that book series or books, conference proceedings, journals, everything gets indexed in one database, Scopus. They do not have separate products. It also includes thousands of journal titles or book series titles. They have over 5,000 publishers globally. There are thousands of cited references, conference papers, funding information. So that's the overall scope of Scopus. Scopus provides journal level metric, which is site score. They also provide SNP. We will not have time to discuss about SNP today, but there are multiple metrics offered on the Scopus website, such as SJR also. So some of them are article level metrics, some of them are journal level metrics, but all of those metrics should be taken into consideration before judging the quality of a journal. The evaluation and decisions are made by the Content Selection and Advisory Board of Scopus, which is international group of scientists, researchers, and librarians They are not employees of Elsevier. They are outside subject matter experts. However, they are the one who make the final decision to select a journal for Scopus or to keep a journal remain indexed in Scopus. So they are very influential and valuable part of the evaluation process for Scopus. Scopus Index journals are grant eligible for Indian authors and researchers because the University Grants Commission of India, that is the funding agency, has disbanded their list, and that has been given to Scopus Index journals. Therefore, Scopus indexing becomes very critical in some of the countries, such as India, China, Russia, and Italy too. Compared to Web of Science, Scopus is also curated, but it is moderately curated. Now, talking about Medline and PubMed Central, both of them are quite similar with little bit of difference. Medline, however, is the most difficult database to get the content selected into. So Medline evaluation process is extremely stringent. Both of these databases are part of PubMed, which is US government agency, and they focus on biomed and life sciences. So they have thousands of journals and publishers in all different languages. Medline is the largest subset of PubMed. The value of Medline is that, first of all, it is highly selective. And then the Medline articles get MESH, medical subject heading, which is additionally curated process done by PubMed. And therefore, it is very difficult for the journals to get selected for Medline. And the initial screening for Medline is done by the National Library of Medicine team. And similar to Scopus, Medline also has a committee where the evaluation and the final decision for selection takes place. And this committee is known as the Literature Selection Technical Review Committee. They are the one to make the final decision of selecting journals for Medline. PubMed Central started off, and it still continues to be the digital repository of NIH, which is National Institute of Health, which is US government institution agency. Again, it is a free full text archive of biomedical and life sciences focused for US. Of course, it accepts the journals that are publishing all over the world. But the requirement is that the journals selected for PubMed Central must be, they should offer the content full text, free and full text. This is the major difference and difference with Medline. But it is also part of PubMed. And again, the core requirements for the selection are very similar of PubMed Central and Medline. So this is the overall scope of some of the leading key indexing services. Again, I do not have time to go over all the separate ones separately. I quickly want to review what are the criteria. There are certain general criteria across all key indexing services, which is extremely critical. So all of us, be that authors or editors or researchers, should pay attention to what are the requirements of these indexing services for selection, right? So they pay very close attention to the journal's aims and scope. And how the scope fits with the journal title, what the content is being published in the journal, who the editorial board is, what is the authorship, whether it is international or local or regional. Is the journal covering an area that is unrepresented or novel or emerging? These are all the consideration that the indexing services will be checking before selecting the journal for their database. Then the overall impact of the journal. What is the significance of the journal? Does the journal critically synthesize and organize knowledge in its field? Then the scientific rigor, which also is applicable at an article level, so very much relevant for authors. Whether the abstract provide complete and accurate description of the content of the article, are the study aims clearly stated and logical, is the rationale justification for conducting the study clear, are the methods described in the sufficient detail so that the experiment could be reproduced, are the contents reported in a manner that is consistent with the standard reporting guidelines. So for example, PRISMA for the review articles. So though, for each type of article, there are reporting guidelines. So does the journal adhere to those guidelines? Those are also consideration taken by these indexing services. Study design robust and appropriate to the stated aim? Are the conclusions drawn supported by the data? Is the discussion section critical and comprehensive? Are the references appropriate and up to date? This has become so critical that many of the journals have been removed from indexing services wherever there have been irrelevant citations or references, because that could be an harbinger of a paper mill, because many of the references could be completely irrelevant and doesn't make sense. With the help of AI tools, these indexing services are able to identify irrelevant or inappropriate citations, and they can flag that there could be ethics-related issues with that article or journal. And then are the statements supported by citations, figures and tables well constructed? Is the writing clear, concise, and logical? So those were all the key requirements that the core requirements that the key indexing services take into consideration while selecting the journal or keeping the journal indexed. Now we are going to be talking about when exactly the indexing services accept the journal and when do the journals get an impact factor or the metric, right? So each one has its own cycle. Web of Science, it is ongoing evaluation. They take at least, the journal, a newly launched journal should have been publishing at least for 1 year. The journal should have published at least 25 research and review articles. They have the core requirements, which are very stringent. So the journal must meet each and every requirement. The evaluation after the journal submits an application for evaluation, Clarivate takes 12 to 15 months to complete the evaluation. And once the journal gets accepted, that journal will get an impact factor in the following year. But for a journal to get an impact factor, Clarivate must have at least 3 years worth of data, which is 2 years of full publication history cited in the most current full calendar year. So for 2024 impact factor that were released last week, Clarivate checked the publications in 2022 and 2023 cited in 2024. And each year that calendar goes 1 year ahead, right? So that is how they give the impact factor. For Medline, again, they are looking for 1 year of publication history. They are looking for 40 research and review articles. Then all Medline requirement, evaluation takes at least 12 months. Then indexing starts. Medline doesn't give any metric. They do not have impact factor or site score. But just getting selected for Medline itself is an indicator of quality journal. And that is, as I said, is not easy. Majority of the journals get rejected in the first evaluation itself. Similar to Medline is PMC. Again, I'm not going to go line by line. The idea is that each journal has this whole evaluation process. They take thorough time in evaluating the content and then they make the decision. For Scopus, it does give a metric which is similar to impact factor, but it is known as site score. And for site score, Scopus needs at least 4 years worth of data. So versus impact factor, which needs 2 years worth of data, Scopus needs 4-year worth of data to give the CITE score. And once the journal is accepted for Scopus, it takes 9 to 10 months for the content from the journal to get indexed and appear in the Scopus database. So as I indicated, each indexing service has its own way of evaluating, selecting, keeping the journal indexed, and then giving the metrics. Now we are going to be talking about the research metrics very briefly and why are they so important, right? So what are this research impact, or what is research impact and metric? So it is mainly the focus has been until now the quantitative analysis, which is very important. But the overall quality of the content, be that an article level or at a journal level, cannot be ignored. So research impact until now has been emphasizing it is a quantitative method of citation and content analysis. It is evaluated by measuring the number of times a certain work is cited by other resources. But the qualitative aspect should be complemented with that quantitative analysis. And for that qualitative analysis, the real life case study, stakeholder feedback, assessing how research has informed and shaped public policies, how it has made difference in the society or lay people. All those aspects are also very important to consider and pay attention to. So not just the quantitative analysis, but also qualitative analysis should be considered. But overall, the research impact is, how has the research contributed to the scholarly record? How has the research been adopted in the clinical application or in the real world? Has community benefited from research? And how has the research influenced public policy, laws, standards, and guidelines, right? So to simplify the research metrics, this is my way of kind of showing, different ways and different types of research metrics. Some of them are article level, some are journal level, some are at institution level, and some are at author level. And now in the recent time, the social media mention or alt metric have been introduced, have come into the horizon, and they are also becoming very influential. And overall, the societal impact, to measure societal impact, the SDGs are also a type of metric, and they should also be taken into consideration. No metric here in itself is the answer to evaluate the quality of work. All of them together should be taken into consideration. And that's the point I want to make. So these are all different type of research metrics. This is not a comprehensive list. These are some of the leading ones, but it helps me understand, simplify the whole process. And that's why I have kind of grouped them into different buckets. I just want to talk about DORA. Again, it is the same point that no one metric in itself, just the impact factor itself, should not be considered the most important or the only answer to evaluate the research. Springer Nature is a DORA signatory. We emphasize all different metrics. And the principles of DORA is to be clear, be transparent, be specific, be contextual, and be fair. So that is the principle of DORA, which we adhere to. Now we are going to be just kind of comparing the journal level metric that are the most popular, right? And this is the journal impact factor and CITE score. Journal impact factor is offered by Clarivate. It is part of, it is Web of Science content that goes into the journal citation report every year. Journal citation report is published only once a year in June, which is still considered the gold standard, and therefore it is very important. And the impact factor calculation is based on the number of citations divided by number of articles, citable items. So what goes into numerator? Citations in the most current full calendar year for all types of articles, be that editorial or letter or original research or reviews, divided by only citable items. So we will talk about, the controversy about this impact factor calculation, because over the years, people have gamed the system. And what they have done is, introduce article type that would not be included in the denominator, such as editorial and letters that have the high potential of getting cited. So they get counted in the numerator, but they are excluded from denominator. And because impact factor is, after all, a ratio, then the higher the numerator compared to the denominator, the impact factor is going to go up. So this is how the game is played. However, Clarivate has learned over the years, and they are able to identify these types of gaming, and they have already taken measures to avoid those types of situations. So this is how the impact factor is calculated. Again, it is still considered the gold standard. And each year, impact factor is published in the third week of June by Clarivate, which still hold great significance for researchers all over the world. Head-to-head comparison with impact factor is CiteScore. CiteScore is offered by Scopus. Scopus is a product of Elsevier. Although Scopus is completely neutral, it is not influenced by Elsevier, but it is owned by Elsevier. Again, CiteScore is also published annually. They also provide the monthly CiteScore just to get an idea. It is offered on the Scopus website on the journal entry. So if you want to understand the pace of the citation accrued by your journal, and if your journal is indexed in Scopus, you will be able to see the CiteScore on a monthly basis also. It is highly reputable. The calculations are done in a different way. So the criticism that we see for impact factor has been avoided in CiteScore, because they take the same article types for the numerator and denominator. So they take into consideration articles, reviews, conference papers, data papers, book chapters, and citations to them are considered in the numerator, and the same articles are also considered in the denominator. So there is less chances of gaming the system. So I just wanted to touch upon the pros and cons of impact factor. Okay, journal impact factor, which is Clarivate's trademark. So I'm not talking about CiteScore. Because this is the gold standard, I want to just touch upon, the major points. It is very well understood, well-established benchmark. It is the quality indicator because selection of the journal is very stringent. It is widely adopted by decision makers, administrators, and tenure committees because it is easy to understand and replicate. It is a quantitative measurement, and publishing in high impact journal can enhance researchers' reputation, aiding in their career advancement, funding opportunities, and promotions. There are many cons we have already touched upon. There is numerator denominator asymmetry. The self-citation can be introduced, which can inflate the impact factor. By introducing article type, there are ways of gaming the system. There is disciplinary bias. So, humanities and social sciences take longer to have the higher impact factor. Length of citation window can influence the impact factor also. So again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, keeping our time constraint in mind, but all these cons or the criticism have been thoroughly discussed in various social media, blog posts, articles. So if you do a search in Web of Science or Scopus about, the criticism of impact factor, you will come across many articles that goes into at length to discuss about the negatives of the impact factor. So talking about impact factor, I must talk about the quartile placement and what is the significance, right? Because each journal within Web of Science or Journal Citation Report or Scopus, based on their site score and impact factor, is then ranked. So all of them have ranking within the subject category that journal is placed in, and based on that ranking, they are then divided into quartiles, right? So the journal, especially emerging authors, new authors, they are encouraged to submit their research into the top quality, not top quality, I mean top quartile journals. So the journals that are in quartile 1 and quartile 2. And quartile 1 journals, because of the higher impact factor and higher ranking, they have more visibility. Their contribution, the journals usually have a substantial contribution. They have significant citation accrual, and that's the reason their impact factor is higher. They are widely respected and chosen for the publication of innovative research. Compared to that, this is the perception, okay? This is how people, researchers, understand about the quartile placement. So journals that are in quartile 2, they are supposed to have moderate impact and visibility. The citation accrual pace is moderate. The contribution within those journals is significant but not groundbreaking. And it is valuable, and it still enhances researchers' reputation. Now, Q3 and Q4 are considered lower so far as the impact is concerned. But that could be, misperception for some of the subject areas, because some of the niche journals may be placed in Q3, Q4, because a citation activity may be limited. That doesn't undermine the value and importance of those journals. So those journals are still very important, because those journals could be, appropriate for disseminating incremental or specialized research. But this is the perception that Q3 and Q4 journals are not very important. And I just wanted to highlight the points on this slide. Springer Nature did a recent study, and we published a white paper whereby we are establishing that lower quartile journals are also very valuable in supporting global research. So this white paper, which is available on Springer Nature's website, we have, examples and case studies that how these lower impact journals are contributing to overall global research landscape, especially supporting specialized fields and fostering inclusivity of Global South. So, just because the journals are in low quartile, it doesn't mean they are less important, because all validated research has values. And Q3, Q4 journals develop and sustain specialized fields and emerging disciplines, which could be missed by, higher quartile journals. And they provide essential platform for global discourse and equity. Journal rankings, as we already touched upon, could be, shifting. 2-year impact factor may be swayed by one article that received a lot of citations. So that quartile ranking could be based on that, that anomaly. Therefore, it is not static. Also, journal ranking, new journal may be in a lower quartile. But as the journal is well established and increases reputation, it is going to move into higher quartile. So therefore, lower quartile journals also have a lot of value, and they do contribute in scientific research process. Now, I just want to touch upon author level metric that is very popular, which is H-index, because that, Google Scholar allows, and there are many other indexing services. including Web of Science and Scopus, they also offer H-index. But Google Scholar H-index is most popular because it allows authors to create their own profile and add the research on their own, which keeps their profile and H-index up to date. So what is an H-index, right? So the very simple explanation is H-index is number of papers that have received at least H number of citation. So for example, an H-index of 10 means that among all publication by that author, 10 of these publications have received 10 citations each. But there are cons. So I do talk about the cons here. Maybe we do not have time to go into the in detail. But what happens is, so H-index of 17, which means that the scientist has published at least 17 papers that has been cited at least 17 times. So if the scientist's 18th most cited publication was cited only 10 times, the H-index would still remain at 17. So there are some cons of H-index because it doesn't take into account the highly cited papers. It is more beneficial to well-established authors and experienced scholars compared to early career individuals, because the authors with longer career span and more publication will always have higher H-index. Also, H-index is not able to differentiate between active and inactive scientists. So H-index can still be based on, the contribution of that author that must have happened many years back. And it varies by discipline due to different norms of publishing speed and quantity. So there are some cons or limitations of H-index also. I now want to talk about alternative metrics because, as we said, just the quantitative analysis and metrics is not the only thing. In the recent time, alternative metrics have also become very critical. Again, they are not the only metric that can be considered. Alt metric or alternative metric should always be complementary to the traditional metric. They do add value, but they should always be complementary metrics. So what are the different types of alt metric? Social media, such as, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, gray literature, the reports, something like white papers that are not part of these indexing services, but they are still valuable. There are many of the reports published by NGO, government agencies, non-profit agencies. So they are all covered in the gray literature. News outlet, so the mainstream media, online media, news articles, they are referring to the research. They are not included in, the traditional indexing services. Blogs, the recent controversies and the ethics related issues that discussed in blogs have raised attention of all these indexing services also. So the indexing services like Web of Science and Scopus and PubMed are also tracking the blogs to see what journals or which authors are being discussed. And then they start their further investigation based on this discussion. Discussions such as, PubPeer, Retraction Watch, all these are taken into consideration. So there are advantages and disadvantages. Advantages are it provides instant feedback, it is more agile, it has a broader impact, deeper engagement, it has diversity of audiences because it is not now limited only to scholarly universe. More lay people are also involved. It gives enhanced visibility and it builds up the interest and momentum. But then there are huge disadvantages also. And we are all aware of the disadvantages: misinformation, disinformation, distractions. Bad things are written without validating or confirming, which can hurt reputation, damage reputation, manipulation. There is lack of standardized interpretation, lack of data quality and integrity, and priority over commercialization over quality. So there are many disadvantages also. And therefore, No one metric should be taken exclusively into consideration, but variety of metrics should be consulted to decide the quality of research and overall quality of journal and overall reputation of the author and editor. So alternative metric, alt metric is a product also. They were the one to start this whole, measuring all these different platforms and giving an altmetric attention score. And each color in this wheel of altmetric has a meaning. And that's what I'm trying to capture here through the this screenshot. So the colors of the donut represent where the source is coming from. Similar to that is PlumX metrics, which is now incorporated into Scopus. And PlumX metrics, it provides also, it focuses on 5 separate categories: citations, usage, capture, mention, and social media. So both of them provide the altmetric score. But again, their methods are separate and different. So their scores are not going to look similar. So kind of, again, synopsis, we just have 5 minutes left. Increasing research impact. There is no one way to increase or measure research impact. Now there are, abundance of AI tools and researchers, institutions, and indexing services, publishers. Everyone is using the AI tools to synthesize, streamline, contextualize big data, personalized metrics, interdisciplinary research, ethical consideration, impact of SDGs, effect of transformative research, mentorship, collaboration, co-authorship, community organizations, lived experiences, especially case studies, case reports in the emerging areas in medicine. Those are very important. Recognizing the value of replicating studies, which is a hot topic in the recent time. Open science practices, all of these are so important and must be taken into consideration. And key takeaway, again, research impact can't be measured by only one metric. It must be used with the variety of metrics and consideration. There is Leiden Manifesto for Research Metrics, which was published in Nature, and it includes the key principles. Again, it is, we have already touched upon all of those points in the previous slide. So I'm not going to read point by point, but this is something that you may be interested in and may want to refer to it. So with that, of course, I want to highlight the research integrity issues, which have become so critical. So, misuse of or abuse of metric can research into research integrity issues. If a journal, if an article or too many articles published in journal have ethical issues, the value of that journal will be, the reputation of that journal is going to be tarnished because it shows a lack of robust peer review process and editorial oversight. Therefore, many retractions or integrity issues can eventually lead to the journal getting delisted from indexing service. So the focus should be on quality and not quantity. There are certain areas that will trigger the attention of the indexing services, such as, misleading citations, irrelevant citations, self-citation, citation stacking, the push for publish or perish, again, at the cost of the quantity over quality. So these are some of the areas that all of us as stakeholder must pay attention to and take into consideration. And with that, I end my presentation. There is so much more. This is just tip of the iceberg. But within an hour, I think these are some of the important points that all of us can pay attention to. So I'll stop sharing my slides and then open it up for Q&A.
Thank you, Sonal. A very comprehensive overview. So that's great. I'm sure that a lot of questions will start from the audience, and feel free to raise the hands or place in the chat, or it's up to you. I will just. Okay, yeah. A curiosity just came to me because recently we edited the special issue research topic, and I remember we shared different denomination, and we had this editorial, and you told that this editorial is a kind of I don't know, way to make it tricky to the impact factor, maybe to have a higher number of citation without not going into the numerator. So according to you, those are the same value because it is not yet, or it does not appear on Scopus. So according to you, and this can be important for all the authors that are here in the call, this editorial or the letter or whatever are valuable, can be considered the papers about indexing, or it's better to avoid because it's a waste of time to write them.
So Gianfranco, let me understand, your question is about how valuable are some brief articles that could be categorized as letters, like brief research report, for example,
No.
that you consider as letter, but actually it does share valuable research information. Is that your question?
No, often there are, sometime in Frontiers, usually there are those editorials that
Yeah.
summarize what the recent special.
Oh, you are talking about the editorials that
Yeah.
highlight other articles published in the journal.
Yeah.
So with Clarivate, Scopus doesn't mind that. However, Clarivate will consider it as you are inflating the journal's impact factor because it increases the self-citation rate of the journal. When an editorial talks or highlights other articles published in the journal, then it is, if it is done for the same year, if the editorial highlights the article, say you wrote an editorial in 2025 that is highlighting the articles published in 2025, online first article date is 2025, then that will be considered towards the immediacy index. But if your editorial cites articles published in previous 2 years, they are self-citations. And a couple of journals have been suppressed because of that. And therefore, we encourage not to publish those types of editorial. Clarivate has suggested a solution which is not acceptable to many editorial board members. What they are saying, publish that editorial separately and make that non-indexable. So it doesn't get indexed. So it doesn't get counted towards the impact factor calculation. So it will not increase the self-citation rate. But the whole idea of those editorial is for editorial board members to find their name in Web of Science or Scopus. So it is not agreeable to them. But yes, this is an area where Clarivate is very clear about it, that it will increase the self-citation rate of the journal and the journal can get suppressed.
Very good. So now there is a very, very interesting question into the chat. It's pretty long, so I invite you to have a look by yourself, by Harda.
Okay.
Actually, there are 2 questions, but you can start from the first, that it's pretty strong.
Okay, first is, okay. So journals and articles gain recognition through citation, associate, remain largely invisible. Does Springer Nature have any structured plan to? So editorial contribution, like if those, associate editors are all listed on the editorial board page of the journal. So that is one way of recognizing them. So they get the recognition because they are displayed on the journal page. So that's one way, or, acknowledgement again. If you do that, if you acknowledge it, could be an editorial or an article published in the journal end of the year, whereby the editors are thanked, the associate editors are thanked for their contribution. That can be done. So despite essential role of associate, those handling high impact factor, high cited paper, there is still no widely recognized or comprehensive metric system to credit their contributions. Platforms like Publon previously addressed this need, but their functionality, So again, overall, this is a very important point, and I fully understand why this is so critical. And that was the last couple of slides I have been talking about, that mentorship or contribution towards journal, or, in addition to like contribution to the society, or, contributing towards white paper. All these are very important factors, and cumulatively they should be considered to increase the research impact. But that can happen, Arda, only if we are able to change the mindset of the decision makers, be that funders, be that decision makers in the institutions, those who, give jobs, give promotion, hire candidates. So until they start taking a comprehensive report about that person with all this different contribution, I'm not seeing anything happening currently. Yes, Publon did offer, but now you see it is also diminished. So all those extra points are, not considered as one solid metric. But these are important points to be taken into consideration. And overall portfolio should be measured, evaluated, which includes all their contribution towards the journal or towards mentorship or working in the local communities, spreading the message. All those are also very important ways of measuring the impact. I agree, but I don't have an answer, unfortunately.
No, thank you. I try to.
Thank you very much for your valuable response. Thank you very much, Sana.
Yeah, it is, I think, changing the mindset of all stakeholders that are involved, and mainly the funders, the decision makers. So yeah, it is like a overall movement that we have to change the mindset, which takes time. Okay, any other question that you have? I'll be very glad to answer. I was expecting a lot of questions. See, editorial contributions has repeatedly come up with my meeting with external article or editorial or something like that, thanking them. And the other way is to, display their names on the journal page, because that is widely read and viewed. Okay, I'm hearing an echo. Okay, it's taken care of.
Pervin, you can unmute yourself, Pervin. And Hirik as well, unless you want to. Please, the people that have on the microphone, if they want to take a question, they are welcome.
Yeah.
They may raise their hands, otherwise they can mute themselves. Yeah, go on, Sonal, sorry.
No, that was the point I wanted to make, that, it is very important to acknowledge and appreciate the tremendous amount of time that the editorial board members are, investing or spending in building up the reputation of the journal and building up the journal. So it is very critical. but it's completely up to us how we do it. And one way of doing it is to, recognize them through the journal itself.
But I'm sure that you are aware that this is a key point for the sustainability of the system, because nowadays everybody wants to publish, but few people wants to review the papers. And for me, it happens to ask, I don't know, 10% to have just a couple of reviewers. And I think it is a pretty common situation. So how we can manage these increasingly difficulties?
Right. So that I will need Valeriana's help in answering that question, because Springer Nature has now expanded teams that help, they focus, their entire focus is identifying peer reviewers, and they do extensive search in identifying peer reviewers. And it is a pretty rigorous and time consuming process. But Springer Nature has invested and is spending time in identifying peer reviewer. It is a challenge. It is a challenge. But also it requires, I don't think that all emerging researchers have this understanding that they are welcome. They can be trained, they can be mentored in the process. So again, it is the joint effort of different stakeholders in attracting good peer reviewers.
Valeriana?
Here we are. Yes, I agree. This a very critical point for all journals. I would say for in all disciplines. I manage a journal portfolio in plant pathology, but I previously managed a journal portfolio in clinical medicine, and the reviewer had been always a pain point for all journals. Currently, there is a very good tool which is increasingly helpful for editors and finding the proper reviewer able to access paper, which is a Reviewer Finder, which is a great tool which is now integrated in our new editorial platform, where all the journals have been moving, which is Snap. Maybe some of you already have some experience with our new Springer Nature platform. We have integrated this tool within the editorial platform, which means that editors who handles papers can easily make use of Reviewer Finder to find the proper reviewers to access papers. Editors can select reviewers by number of publications. There are many criteria that can be used to select the right reviewers. This is one tool that Springer Nature have developed, because we know that this is a very critical point for assessing in a proper way the papers, but it's also critical for editors to save their time in this demanding task. Yes, this is increasingly helpful for editors, at least for my experience for my journals. And so, but there is also other way, just adding some words on this. I always recommend my editors to make use of their network, because it's can be also helpful to involve early career researchers, which is because being peer reviewer, it's an incredibly helpful way to improve themselves as researchers, to stay on top of things with research, which is going. So making use of your own network is absolutely helpful, and it's a win-win things, I would say, because help handling editors to have the right reviewers, but also allow young researchers to stay updated on research. So yes, I would say these are the main ways to support the peer review process.
Oh, thank you. Going back to the harder questions, do you think, for example, to have my experience is that if you search for a revision, you can ask to a very young researcher that will be excellent to tell, please, here it is missing a comma, and here it is needed an accent, and here there is not the proper space. And let's say maybe enough. While an experienced people that read all the paper has not the time to do it. So, or they need a reason to do it. So in the system, a kind of recognition, for example, in some chain, they can tell, okay, if you review 10 papers, you will give a discount on the next submission. I know that somebody has to pay. That can be the authors, the reviewer, the readers, or because the system is more or less closed. Although there are the big chains that became bigger and bigger. So do you think that a way to recognize this work in Springer Nature is underway, is under discussion? Because if it became hard, it became a second work. I guess, for example, for editor, that can be senior of associate or whatever, that it can take a lot of time. And most of people has another job that is different. So which is your point of view about that?
Yes, if I can.
Yeah, Valeriana is the best person to answer that question because I'm completely non-commercial person. Franco, I'm completely editorial, non-commercial. So any commercial questions will be Valeriana.
Okay, I will try to do my best. So as the first things that it came to my mind concerning reviewer recognition is are the certificates that can be asked to editorial to get recognized the reviewer works. And these certificates are, I learn, incredibly relevant when it comes to promotions or research found and whatever has to do with academic career. So asking me or the publisher of the journal to get a certificate that proves that you are a journal editor, but that you also have been a reviewer for some manuscripts, it's something that can be easily done, and it can be very important for your career. This is another question, another matter that is always ongoing, I would say, how to recognize reviewers. And this is still under, discussion, I would say, also at Springer Nature. I believe that maybe there might be some updates in the coming month, but as for now, I would like to reassure all of you that yes, we know the matter, we know that this is a critical point, and we are thinking of it. And I know that it's critical, but I also know that paying reviewers is something that's not fair. It's not. I would say that paying reviewers doesn't help the research landscape because it's something that is not, not fair, not proper. So yes, it's still under discussion. Likely something new will come up in the next month. As of now, as I said, I encourage you to reach out to your publisher and ask for any letters you might need for your academic purpose. That's it.
Thank you, Valeriana. There are other questions for Sonal? Okay, I don't see. Kata, do you have any question?
Yes, we heard a lot of information. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Sonal. And if an author wants to write a really good Q1 article, which is, I know a lot of things, but which is the most important things, which is the number one that the authors needs to pay attention, which is the number one, the first one.
Number one in selecting a journal.
No, if I want to write an article, which is the number one things, what I have to pay attention that this part have to be
for
perfect.
the journal selection. I think the number one is, what is the aims and scope of the journal and the editorial board and what the journal has been publishing. These three are the more before. Don't worry about metric quartile placement. The most important thing is, does the aims and scope of the journal match with what you have published? It has to be the right fit. Then, of course, the editorial board, what other articles they have published, whether it is that community, the right community or not. Of course, there are many interdisciplinary journals also. But that should be the number one consideration. If you have published quality work, citations will come. So, your focus should be publishing quality work. And aims and scope of the journal, the identity of the journal is the most important thing.
So if I can add a comment on this, I would strongly recommend to follow the instruction for authors, because if you have a paper that perfectly match the aims and scope, but it isn't formatted accordingly to the instruction for author, it will be rejected. So I strongly recommend to follow the instruction for author, read them very carefully, and make sure that your manuscript follows them.
Yeah, that's a very important point, Valeriana, because certain journals might not accept a type of article that you have authored. Then that's a mismatch.
Yes.
There will be a mismatch. So instructions for author will also be very important. Yeah. So some initial points. Now, I see Arda's comment more carefully. The second part where you talk about nature, right? Do you think Springer Nature can take a leading role in developing or supporting transparent, standardized ways to recognize editorial contribution as legitimate scholarly output? That's a good question. And I've noted that. I don't have an answer. I'll have to discuss within Springer Nature about different options. We published 3,100 journals. And Springer Nature publishes nature journals also, and some, like we have variety of journals. So I have to discuss with internal teams to find an answer, or if not an answer, what is in process, what is being done currently to address this area. I'm sure it has been discussed before. So I'll have to find out and then get back to you. Through Valeriana.
Very good, very good, very good. Kata, do you have some final words?
Just, I'm really thank you, everything. It was really good. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
No, I appreciate your, taking time to listen to me. So thank you for your time. Greatly appreciated. But again, indexing is so vast, right? Within an hour, we can only talk about certain points.
So if the people that are in the call want to show up, we can have a screenshot. And I take the chance to acknowledge the very good contribution of Valeriana in setting up, and Sonal of a very, very good explanation of how the system works and how we can get ready to publish good papers and to be indexed as well. So this is very, very important for lots of early career researchers that are into the cost action and into this call as well, into this webinar. So thanks you all, and ready for the screenshot. There is somebody else that wants to appear. 1, 2, 3. No. Okay, here we are. Okay, yeah, Osgur. We were missing you. Okay, Osgur is one of the people that is taking care of one of the review that we will publish, maybe on Springer Nature Journal. So let's see. We have to select the good one, and what Sonal told can be very, very important on this.
Yes, exactly. The thing is that these days the slots, separated or included in fee waiver for Turkey has been closed. So we will have a new opportunity for the new year, because the free slots are newly finished, unfortunately. So we will try our best to finalize our work until the end of year, and so we will use the possibilities or opportunities at the beginning of 2026. So thank you very much for this presentation. I missed the first part. I'm so sorry. Will you share the presentation with us after the meeting?
So we will share the recording of the presentation, but not the slide deck. And the reason for not sharing slide deck, because it's constantly changing, right? So if I share something within a month, this is going to get outdated. And unfortunately, some people, they come back to me after 5 years and say, oh, you said this. And I have to ask them, when did I say that? 5 years back. So many things have changed since then. So I don't want people to save the slide deck and refer to that as the final ultimate word. It's better to meet regularly so you get updates. So please refer to the recording. That will be more helpful.
That's true. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And it was live on Facebook. And I say hello also the people that follow live on Facebook that are still following now. And the video will be made available on the YouTube channel of Food Waste Stop in the next days. So thanks again to
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks. Bye.
And keep in touch soon. Bye. Thank you
Bye.
again.
Goodbye.
Thank you.